Hello and welcome to From the Shed End with myself, T.Dot. As always, thank you very much for joining me. Now, if you're new to the channel, you're new to this channel, you're only here because you support Chelsea, then great, you're in the right place. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. That's what I'm trying to say. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you give it a thumbs up and a like. Let me know your thoughts in the comments as well. There's a couple of things that we want to try and address on this channel today, which I'm going to try and do. But yeah, let's get this algorithm thing going. Let's get as many likes as possible on this video. All of that stuff that I'm trying to get involved with all the rest of the YouTube world, man. I'm trying to get in with everyone else who's got thousands of followers. So we're trying to do the same on this platform as well. So make sure you subscribe, give it a thumbs up, all of that stuff. But we're going to be talking Chelsea straight away. Obviously, that's what we're here to do. Um, I want to address something first, though, because I've been talking a lot since maybe the Liverpool game, maybe before the Liverpool game, about one particular player, which has kind of spilled into the social media world, which has kind of been something that's been spoken about pretty much all day yesterday in my WhatsApps and everywhere else. And obviously, I'm talking about Mason Mount. There's only one place I can start with on this stream. It is Mason Mount. Um, what can I say? Let me start by saying that Mason Mount. I'm going to caveat everything I'm going to say with all of this stuff. These are the points that I'm going to say first of all. Mason Mount is not the only player currently in the Chelsea squad that is playing poor. I understand that 100%. You could name Kai Havertz, you could put Jorginho in there, you could put Kepa in there, you could put Mendy in there, you could put many other players that have got the Chelsea badge on their chest and they're not playing for the badge. But I think with Mason Mount, it's slightly different because we're allowed to criticize Jorginho. We're allowed to criticize Christensen. We're allowed to criticize anyone in the squad. Aspilicueta, Mendy, Kepa, Havertz. Werner got criticized to the point where he didn't want to play for the club. Sal Niguez was criticized as well. Morata, I think, didn't want to walk down the streets of London because he was criticized that much by the fan base, even though he scored goals. Let's not forget that. Morata was scared to walk down the streets of West London and get a coffee because he was scared. Now, we've criticized players when it's duly needed and when it's rightfully justified. We've done that. We do that. Now, Mason Mount cannot be exempt from any sort of criticism. No one hates Mason Mount. No one wants him out the club. No one wants him to have any mental health breakdown. No one wants any of that. But when a player is playing bad, regardless of who they are, now I'm seeing comparisons to Phil Foden. I'm seeing comparisons to. In fact, let me get one of these tweets up that I tweeted about earlier, just so that it kind of puts into context what I'm trying to say. Now, the comparison here is Mason Mount and Saka. Now, Mason Mount is a player that plays, you can say, further up the field than Saka, plays in a completely different position to Saka, plays more central. Saka's played the left back role. He's played on the wing. He plays a totally different position to Mason Mount. So I think already the comparison is wrong because you're comparing two different players. And what I'm trying to say in my tweet here, which still I'm really puzzled, and I don't think anyone has even answered the question to me yet. And I'm hoping someone can answer the question to me. What does Mason Mount bring to the game currently? We're not talking back to back player of the season Mason Mount, because under that structure, the system, it worked. Now, Mason Mount has not been playing well for a long period of time. I can also add Kai Havertz into that conversation. I could potentially add Jorginho into that conversation. Kovacic has not been the same player since he went to the World Cup and came back. So this is not just criticism to Mason Mount, but we have to call out Mason Mount just as much as we have to call out anyone that isn't from Cobham. And I think the problem we have as a fan base is we don't want to call out Mason Mount because he's from Cobham, because he's an English player. I think that's the truth. We don't want to call him out because he's an English player. Now, Saka's been playing brilliantly for Arsenal. He played brilliantly when he was at left back for Arsenal. So we can't compare him. Some will say that Mason Mount has got 9 goal and assists for Chelsea this season. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. But if you look at his stats before that, they were much better. If you look at his stats for 2020, 2021, 21, 22, they were much better than what he's got now. Foden, someone compared Foden to Mason Mount to me yesterday. He doesn't play the same role. Now, people will say that Foden plays, more left side of the attacking midfielders as a winger. He plays more so there, which is correct. But at the same time as well, if you notice about Pep, and he's always done this, Pep always rotates his squad. He always does it. Pep doesn't have a set 11. There's not a set 11. You could not name a Pep Guardiola squad, because that front three, especially without Haaland, we're talking about last season, that front three was always rotated. It's one of the reasons why Sterling wanted out, because he found himself, when Grealish came into the team, he was rotated less into the squad. He was more on the bench. It's one of the reasons why he wanted out the club, and why Pep was willing to let him go, because Pep didn't see Sterling as a threat going to Chelsea. So comparing Mason Mount to Saka to Foden is uncomparable. You can't compare the two. I think we have to be honest and say that Mason Mount has not been playing well. He hasn't played good football. I still, as my tweet says here, I still don't know what attributes, just three attributes. I want three attributes. And I don't mean he runs with the ball. He's got vision. We've all got vision, or the majority of people have got vision, and the majority of people can dribble the ball. What does he actually bring to the game? That's all I want from someone. So the tweet underneath there says that, we should be backing him because he's a homegrown talent. That isn't a reason to back someone. I'm sorry. If they're playing poor, they're playing poor. Because he's homegrown doesn't mean that he's allowed to get away with playing poor for the club. It doesn't mean he can go and speak to another club and try and use another club as a reason to get a contract that he wants. That's not a reason. So for me personally, when I look at Mason Mount, I want him to bring something to the table, to the team. And if he can't do that, then of course he has to be benched. I don't understand why, Koulibaly can be benched for bad form. Graham Potter's done that. Back-to-back games. Cucurella only came back into the team against Liverpool. He missed Crystal Palace and Fulham. Bad form. He put Lewis Hall at left back. Mason Mount is under the same criticism. Now, some will say, who do you play there? Can you play someone else there? Can Conor Gallagher play in that role? He can't. But Carney Chukwuemeka can. And I think if we're bringing in these players, we're bringing in these youngsters. If someone can tell me that Carney Chukwuemeka will not do just as good, if not better job than Mason Mount currently based on form, then we've got a problem, because I think a lot of Chelsea fans will back Mason Mount because he's English. They won't back Jorginho like that. Mason Mount and Jorginho are probably just in the same vein of form together, but we'll slate Jorginho in the press. We'll slate him on Twitter. We'll slate him on YouTube. But Mason Mount isn't allowed that. I don't get it. So when I come on here and I talk about Mason Mount, I'm not doing it because I don't like the player. I don't like him as a person. I don't know him as a person. I'm saying it because I want my team to do well. And if there's someone who's not playing for the badge and not doing well, then they have to be benched. You look at Spurs, they're playing Son, who hasn't done anything this season. They're still playing him. They've got Richarlison, who some will say isn't as good as Son, but is he a worst case scenario? Probably yes, but put him in a team, he might do something. He had a really good World Cup. So I don't understand it. I don't get it. I don't get how the whole narrative around Mason Mount is he's the best we've got at the club. He's the best. He's the best at the club. I don't get it. So I want to address that. I don't think when I come on here that I'm talking about Mason Mount because I'm a Mason Mount hater. No, I'm a Chelsea fan. I support the club. I want the club to do well. And if you're not playing well for the club, you're going to get spoken about on the channel. It's as simple as that. We need to stop all this sort of shielding him, protecting him because he's, as it says there, a homegrown talent. And we can't throw him under the bus. We're not throwing anyone under the bus. So I think we just need to separate those kind of things, in my opinion. I think we need to be more aware of the fact of when you're talking about stats and you're bringing up stats, you need to watch the game. Because stats is one thing, but when you can say he's got 9 goals and assists, but if you watch the game and watch his movement, watch his passing, watch his vision, watch his positional awareness, it's zero. Confidence is on the floor. So stats is one thing. watching the game, and some of these people who are talking about Mason are going to the game. They're there every weekend, home and away. So I needed to bring that up because I think, I see a lot of people tweeting and stuff, and people getting on to me about Mason Mount and what I say about him. And I'm saying it because I want the best for the club. Players come and go. Whether he's cost us £0 and he's Cobham and all of that stuff, that's brilliant. But if you're not playing good for the team, you have to be benched. And if you want out of the club, which we're going to get onto now, then who are we to hold him back? Maybe a move away from Chelsea is the right thing for Mason Mount. Maybe that's what he needs. Maybe he needs to be out of the club. Maybe he needs a new start. There's rumors that he's really unhappy with not just the fans, but the owners, the way that they've come in and they brought, João Felix in, and they brought Mudryk in, and Madueke's coming now as well. All these players that are coming in, apparently he's unhappy with that being played out of position, rightfully so. I mean, we know that he's not good on the wing. We know that he's not a winger, so he shouldn't be playing there. That's again something that you have to add in a bit of context when we talk about these things. He's not good on the wing. We know that his best position is down in the attacking role, the 10 role, the 8 role. He can do that, but he has to be criticised as well at the same time, because even when he plays in his natural position, he's still not one of the best players for Chelsea at the moment. Zachariah, I could say, has been in better form. Lewis Hall, the 2 games he played, he's in better form. Thiago Silva, better form. You can see Badia Shield, the games that he's played, better form. Mudryk came in and then João Felix and showed more commitment and more intent to get that ball forward than Hakim Ziyech, than Mason Mount. So the criticism is there because the criticism isn't telling any lies, in my opinion. But we're going to talk about Mason Mount. I want to talk about current issues with Mason Mount at the moment. Now, there is a lot of talk about Liverpool being heavily interested with Mason Mount, and the fact that Mason Mount is currently considering a move away from Chelsea. He's currently thinking at the moment about a move to Liverpool, which is very, very likely, in my opinion. I think at the moment, Mason Mount, as I said, isn't happy at the club. There's been a lot of discussions at the moment. There was contract talks on the table with Todd Bowley and Mason Mount, which is one of the key things that I think Todd Bowley wanted to resolve when he first came into the club. Was he wanted to resolve Mason Mount's contract. He wanted to resolve Reece James's contract, and one out of the two's been done. But Mason Mount currently, I think, obviously wants to double his wages, which is understandable. He looks around, he sees Koulibaly on X amount, and he sees, Reece James on a new deal. He sees all these players coming in, they're on decent wages as well. Raheem Sterling, another one. So I think in terms of Mason Mount, I don't think he's wrong to demand what he wants. It's just whether the club are willing to give it him. Have the club thought, well, if you want this amount of money, we don't want to give it to you. We know a player out there that we want and we can give it to them. Then of course the money might go to them instead. So I think for me personally, this news, as it says here on the Anfield edition, there's every chance that Mason Mount will leave Chelsea in the summer if his contract situation is not resolved. And considering the interest they've shown in England international, Liverpool could be most likely destination. Now that has come from Bobby Vincent's as part of Liverpool Echo, the Anfield edition, a tweet in that currently. I'll be honest, I think Mason Mount would suit Liverpool's system. I think he would suit their system to a T. Would I want to see him go to a rival? Not at all. Because I think if he put his mind in motion and actually played as well as we know he can, then he's got a role to play at Chelsea. Now, does he fit into Graham Potter's system? Possibly not, but there's still a role to play at Chelsea. I think he's got, he can adapt a role. You see players, I just told you, Saka was playing left back. He's now playing right wing, and he's scoring goals for fun. He's putting balls in the box for fun for Arsenal. So I think there's a role for Mason Mount to play at Chelsea. I think the problem is he's using Liverpool potentially as, many players do these days. They use another club as leverage to get the deal that they want, to get the new contract that they want. But there's been rumors that, Mason Mount wants out. And if he wants out, then I think, as we said about Rudiger, as you said about Christensen, as you said about previous players, if they don't want to be at the club, regardless of who they are, regardless of Cobham's finest and all that stuff, then they have to go. They want to go, they go. There's no one's bigger than the club, regardless of who they are. So I think Liverpool would suit him really well. I think, he would fit into Jurgen Klopp's system very well. I mean, it'd be scary to think of Mason Mount in that team because I think he'd flourish in there. Um, I think obviously the additions of Mudryk coming in, and Kunku's meant to be coming in the summer. João Felix potentially will be staying beyond the 6 months as well. There's more to come, I think, from Todd Bowley in the summer. I really do. So I think Mason Mount has potentially looked at this deal and thought, well, Liverpool are offering me something. They need midfielders, let's be honest as well. And I do think, potentially they will try every attempt to lure him away. We haven't got a bad reputation, as we said on the podcast a few days ago. We haven't got a bad reputation, a bad relationship with Liverpool. Joe Cole, Yossi Benayoun, Fernando Torres, Morelos. There's been a lot of players that have gone across the two clubs as well. So I can see it happening, but I think Mason Mount at the moment just needs to get his head down, try and get the form that he had a couple of seasons ago. And if this is his last season for Chelsea, then I think he should go out on a high and go out with a bit of pride. The Eden Hazard way, go out with a bit of pride and leave on good terms with the Chelsea fan base. I think that's the only way for me personally that this ends well. Um, Moving on, because obviously we've got a bit of time to talk about some other news, and the big one now. I want to talk quickly about the contract situation because I think UEFA tweeted yesterday, or there was news come out from UEFA to say that they're going to be changing. Obviously, Chelsea, the most hated club in the world, are going to change the legislation or the ruling around contracts and how long contracts can be extended for in terms of the period of contract length. This is down to the fact that obviously Chelsea have found a loophole in the current rules and ruling of how we can sign players. You can extend it beyond how many years you want. I think the recommended contract term is 5 years, I think, currently. But if anything beyond that, then I think in terms of the rule at the moment, they have to adhere to whatever the contract extension is. So if it's 8 years, then they have to push that through as 8 years, which we've been seeing with some of the signings that have come through already. 8-year contract, I think, for Mudryk. Now, why that's so crucial is because it allows Chelsea to almost cook the books. Let's be honest, Chelsea are cooking the books, and they're allowing the financial fair play, the whole ruling around that, to look a lot more rosier than it actually is. So in a way, I'm kind of in favor of this because I think doing an 8-year deal for players is really good, as long as they develop in the way that we expect them to develop in 8 years. But if we look at some of the signings that we've had on long-term contracts in the past, it hasn't always worked. And what you don't want to do is end up with a player on an 8-year deal. It doesn't work out in say 2 or 3 years for them, and then you're stuck with them. You're stuck with them then for the duration of that contract. So I think in a way it's good that it's going to be capped, I think, at maybe 5 or 6 years. Obviously Chelsea have found a loophole, and this is exactly why we've been going out for some of these players that we've been going out for. We've been trying to get them in because maybe Todd Bowley was aware that he was going to come in. It makes perfect sense to me. Now, a big signing that I think has come up over the past week or so for Chelsea, one that we've been heavily linked with all of this window and before the window as well. And I hope we can still get this done. I mean, this is going to be the big one for me. The one that I think is more unrealistic signing that we might see. This has been reported by Ben Jacobs. Chelsea still hope Benfica soften on their Enzo Fernandez position due to offer lower than his 120 million release clause, still being significantly above his market or summer value. Now, problem with this deal with Enzo Fernandez, it would leave Benfica in a predicament because they really want to hold on to him. Obviously they've got their own ambitions for this season as well. The player was all up for coming a couple of weeks ago, and I said on Pitch Footy, if you're on YouTube, make sure you go and check out Pitch Footy, really good channel on there, James Helder, and I was on there and I said I think this deal can still happen. The player wanted the deal. Benfica were resigned to the fact they were going to lose him a couple of weeks ago. He obviously came on, I think, one of the games a couple of weeks ago, and kissed the badge and pointed to the ground to say, I'm staying at Benfica. But we've seen all these signs before. Do I have to remind you about Fabian Delph, Jack Grealish, Luis Suarez, even Mark Cucurella. I mean, these are the players that, came out and said that they were happy to stay at the club. The club is theirs. They want to fight for the club, and they're focused on the club, and all of those stuff that you have to say when you're signed to a club, even though another club's about to sign you. But I do feel like Enzo Fernandez would be the one for us. I think, we're going to struggle to get him in the summer. I think there'll be a lot more clubs circulating around him. Liverpool potentially, especially if they get their takeover. I think we'll try and get in, try and get him in the summer. So I think for me personally, Enzo Fernandez has to be the be all and end all before this window shuts. But how realistic it is to happen, I don't think so. If I had to put a percentage, I'd say 40% of me thinks that this will happen, this deal will happen. I think, it's just one of those deals that I think is the missing piece to the puzzle. I mean, you can see what we're trying to do going forward with, as I said, Muric and Cuckoo coming in, Mudweki as well, now coming in as part of that lineup as well. Santos, who we've just brought from Vasco da Gama, who's had a brilliant start over there, and I think he scored last night, brilliant goal. All these players that we're trying to bring in, young, youthful players that we're trying to build for the next couple of years or so, he would be the missing piece to the puzzle for me. However, I don't think it's going to be realistic in this window to entice him away. Now, the only way I think we do this, and again, this goes back to the financial fair play, the length of contract, which we're still able to do because the new ruling doesn't come until summer, so it does not affect any signings for January. So we are still allowed to sign players on 8, 7-year contracts if we want to. But I do think if we can get this deal done and we pay that release clause, we get the release clause done, this is a massive signing for us. Benfica aren't going to budge. Now, I heard this morning. I think we're going in with 100 million plus players now, and I said players plural. So I think if we do that, I don't think Benfica are going to budge. I think Benfica just want cash up front, the whole cash as well. So the stumbling block I think at the moment is we're trying to spread this payment over that structure, like I've just mentioned, around the extension of a longer contract for Enzo Fernandez, which means that the payment structure will be slightly different. I think Benfica just want 120 million. Give us the 120 million, activate that release clause, and we'll sort it out. I mean, personal terms, I think we're agreed before, so that won't be an issue. It's just the fee, and I think we're talking. I say we're talking, but in terms of football and Todd Bowley, we're talking like 25 million, 30 million for a player. Now, if Todd Bowley really wants him, and I think push will come to shove, and we'll see how calling each other's bluff will be come the end of this week. But if Todd Bowley really wants Enzo Fernandez, now is the time to get him, because I think in the summer he's going to be hot property. He's hot property now, but I think he'll be harder to get in the summer. I think there'll be a lot more clubs circling around him. Real Madrid potentially. I think Liverpool will be the key one for us to fight off as well. Maybe even Arsenal. You never know. So I think for me personally, we have to try and for Enzo Fernandez in this window. If we don't get him, then albeit, but I think we have to try at least to try and get him. Now, another midfielder that we have been heavily linked with, and again, as I just mentioned, who's come out recently and said that he's happy at the club, is Moises Caicedo. Now, I like Caicedo. I think he's a player that we would definitely benefit from. We got to see that at Liverpool. We got to see it at Fulham and Palace. I think this is one of those players that would change our midfield 1000%. Again, being reported by Ben Jacobs, Moises Caicedo on his future. I am focused on Brighton. I am here. I'm playing every day. Things from the outside don't trouble me, nor does it take the focus away because I'm focused only on here. I handle speculation. I handle the speculation well. You hear rumors here and there, but I only try to be focused on the club where I am now, the club which opened the doors for me to be playing every week. Now, that's officially from Brighton and Hove Albion's official Twitter account and their website. I'm going to be honest. I've heard this story before. I've heard it from, as I said, Luis Suarez, who signed a deal and left straight away to go to Barcelona. Jack Grealish, who came out and said that he's his boyhood club. He loves Aston Villa. I don't ever want to leave this club, and signed for Man City. Marc Cucurella, if you remember, Brian had to come out with the statement to say that he wasn't signing for the club. There's been no fee agreed. Even though we knew a fee was agreed, they still wouldn't come out and say that one was agreed. Um, it happens at clubs. I think, they have to save a bit of face. I think Brighton are trying to bring in a midfielder, if I remember correctly, as well. They're trying to bring in, by the looks of it, the replacement for CAICEDO as he does leave. They want to get themselves covered. But, De Zerbi as well in Brighton, they're doing really well. They're doing well in the league. So, they don't want to lose someone like him, but they are willing to listen and entertain, negotiations and offers. We've seen it with Correa. We've just seen it with Trossard, who, wanted at the club as well. So they are willing to sell players. I think the issue is they want to make sure the valuation, the fee is the right fee for the player. Now, again, very much like Enzo Fernandez, this is getting your bluff stuff from Todd Bowley and Brighton, and who's willing to back down first. And I think, again, we know we need a midfielder. We know we need someone, as I said, Enzo Fernandez for me is the one that is at the very top of this, and someone that I would say is the benchmark, midfielders that we currently need. But when you look at Moises Caicedo, again, another player that I think will do a job for us, young player, solid in midfield, someone that we need that is going to be consistently in that team. As you can see, as I said, breaking down, midfielders and getting that ball, linking up the play. It's Moises Caicedo for me personally, or Lavia. I mean, Lavia is another option at Southampton, but I think where they are, bottom of the league, fighting for points, I think they're going to try and keep hold of Lavia. But Moises Caicedo, I think, would be open for a move to Chelsea. Obviously, he's played under Graham Potter before as well, which is another massive factor in the whole negotiations. Someone that could easily, make the phone call if there was a chance to, agree personal terms and just make that final persuasion for Caicedo to join us. I think it's Graham Potter. He's got that pull with his being previous manager to him, but I think we need to bring in a midfielder. I think this window, whether that's Fernandez or Caicedo, or do we just bite the bullet and try and go for either or in the summer? It's going to be interesting, I think. But for me, I think Caicedo has to be a massive, thought now. He has to be in the thought process of Todd Bowley, in my opinion. But let me know what you think in the chat. Let me know what you think. Make sure you smash the like button as well. And as I said at the start of this, make sure you subscribe as well. We need to get the algorithm going. You need to share this video as much as you can, to make sure that people see what we're talking about on this channel, make it worth our while. Couple more, or at least one more that I want to try and squeeze in. Now, this one sounds like it's going to happen. And this is a Fabrizio Romano tweet at the moment around Malo Gusto. Chelsea are in direct contact with Lyon. They understand personal terms are already agreed on long-term deal. Player open to the move. Now, Lyon have turned down Chelsea's opening verbal bid. They want Malo Gusto to stay until at least June. Now, I think I did hear last night that I think they said that they want to do a deal, but Lyon want him back until the end of the season. Now, I think that is probably not a bad deal. It's probably not a bad deal, and I'll tell you why in a second. I just want to come to this comment here from Cruz Banter. Do you think it would be better to go for Kessie instead of Caicedo? I don't know. I think the reason I say no, and I'd like to hear what you think, but the reason I say no is because I think Caicedo he would fit our team better. He's Premier League proven as well. And I think that's a massive selling factor for me. The fact that he's played in the Premier League, and he's played with Graham Potter. I think that's another key thing. We're forgetting that he's played with Graham Potter. He's got the sell from Potter. I think he understands how Potter wants to work as well. I think again with Correa, another player that he's worked with, I think he just fits what we need to do. I think Kess is a really good player. But I think, Caicedo for me personally, would fit the system that Graham Potter's trying to install in these players and going forward. So I think the fact that we know Brighton are a club that are willing to listen to offers for their players if it's the right fee, it's the easier option, I think, in my opinion, at the moment, with the way that the window's about to shut soon as well, to get that deal done a lot quicker. But let me know what you think, whether Kessie or Caicedo is the one that you would go for, a Cruz Banter. But as I said about Gusto, now I'll be honest, I don't know much about the player. I'm only listening to certain credible Chelsea fans when I go on Twitter and they give me the breakdown of what he is and what we can expect from this player. But the news that I'm hearing about Gusto is Reece James could be in trouble. And by that, I don't mean he's going to be replaced by Gusto. I just mean that he's now got competition very similar to when we had Ben Chilwell and Marcus Alonso on the left side. It'll be very, very similar on the right side now in terms of Gusto, if he does come in, and James as well. I mean, I've said it on the podcast, I've said it on videos that I've done on here. I don't think um Reece James can stay fully fit for a season. I really don't. I don't think we're going to see Reece James maybe for the next season at least, to the full potential that we know he can hit. I just don't think he's. I think the two injuries that he's had now, back-to-back seasons, they're massive injuries and have kept him out for, let's say, 40% of the season, if not more. And I think he does need some like gusto um, to come in and just change the game. I think he comes in and changes that game for us. And if what I'm hearing about him, if he can come in and do that and can do a job and he fits into how Graham Potter wants us to play, then I'm all for bringing in this player. I think we needed cover anyway. You look at Aspilicueta on his way out. We're playing Trevor Chalobah right back at the moment. We're playing Hakim Ziyech as a right wing back against Liverpool. It tells us that we need to address this issue urgently. So, is against loaning him back to Lyon till June, but at the same time as well, I think we've got to write this season off, and we need to sign a player. Maybe persist with Chalobah as a right back, and maybe even Aspilicueta at times. Obviously, Reece James will come back this season at some point, but to what capacity and how long will he stay fit, we don't know. And obviously, we've got Hakim Ziyech that's currently playing at right wing back anyway as well. So, in my opinion, if we sign a player, we're thinking about long term, and I think my mindset is long term now. And I think if Gusto, like I said, from what I'm hearing about him, he's the player that we need to be bringing in, then so be it. And if it's competition for Reece James, then that's only a good thing. That would just increase Reece James to the next level that we know. He's a world-class right back for me. And I think if we get him consistently playing next season or the season after, having the two as an option is can only be a good thing as a Chelsea fan. Like I said, we had ENZO at one point, we had Chilwell at one point as well. And it was the start of the season before, it was last season before Chilwell got that injury. Um, they were both they were both on top of their game because they wanted to start the games. And I think that's sometimes what you need. You need healthy competition in all areas of the pitch. So I think for me personally, if it's deal that can get done before the window shuts, we've got to go for that one myself. Onoma, Dixon, CAICEDO is the real deal. I agree with you. I think if he if we can get that deal done, even if it's in as an inexpensive Enzo Fernandez, if we get that deal done, I think personally we've got ourselves a good player on our hands. And like I said before, you look at the players that we've brought in already, he almost fits into that already. You can see where he's going to fit in. And as I said, before we started signing all these players, I couldn't see a vision. I couldn't see what we were trying to do in terms of the project and that long-term vision. And I'm slowly starting to see it now. Look how Coca getting some of these deals done. And this, for me, if we can get CAICEDO done in the next, couple of days or so, and I think we're going to have to. I think if we're going to do it, I think the window shuts in the next 7 days anyway. If we get this deal done, it will show some real intent for next season, in my opinion, because CAICEDO is Premier League proven. He played really well in Brighton. And I know that's not a benchmark to go by because look at Cucurella and how his forms dipped in and out. I think if we get CAICEDO, I think he's a brilliant player. I think he's someone that we can definitely nurture into that Chelsea squad. And then we have to look at the backs and maybe a goalkeeper. If we bring this right back in, we get a striker in the summer, because let's be honest, we're not going to get a striker in January, and maybe a goalkeeper, because that's another area which I'm heavily hesitant to go into next season with just Kepa, Mendy, Slanina, who's unproven in the Premier League. I don't think we've even seen him kick a ball or being between the sticks for Chelsea in a competitive game. I think he made his debut last week for the development squad, but we haven't seen him in a senior competitive game, so we can't really talk about Slanina. So I think we need to look at goalkeeper, striker. Those are the two key areas I think we need to be looking at in the next couple of 2 windows at least. This window, summer window, next winter window. We've got to address all those issues for me personally. But I think as it goes without saying, I mean, I don't know what you guys think that are tuned in I mean, I think we've had a relatively good transfer window so far. I think now, for me, especially in the summer, it's who goes out of the club, who is up for being bought, who's in the shop window. And I think if we're honest, I think when we look at some of the players, I mean, Jorginho looks like he's on his way out. He doesn't want to talk about new contracts, and I think he's looking for a move back to Italy, which is understandable. Aspilicueta, I think for me has to consider his options now. I know there was talk about maybe extending his contract again, but I think if you watch Aspilicueta playing, especially if Gusto comes in, he's going to be playing maybe third fiddle to Reece James if he stays fit, and then Gusto, and then he's going to be the third choice, and maybe that might suit him. But I think he'll want to get a move that he wanted last season back to Spain. Um, People are going to hate me for this one, but I'm going to get onto him soon. But Hakim Ziyech, I think, has to go. There's a lot of talk about him potentially going to Roma this window. I think Jose Mourinho is definitely keen on trying to get him to Roma. He's obviously looked at maybe to Tammy Abraham and how it's worked there for him as well. He's worked with Hakim Ziyech previous, I think, before. So I think you're going to look at that and say, yeah, okay, this is going to be one of those where I think maybe Hakim Ziyech gets done. Maybe, I don't know. Now, I'm going to say Mason Mount. I started the video talking about Mason Mount. Now, if Mason Mount does go, and you guys let me know in the chat as well, Mason Mount does go, is that a massive loss for us? If we lose Mason Mount, is it a massive loss? Do we really miss Mason Mount when he doesn't play? And if he does go, do we try and sell him? His contract's ending very soon. Obviously that changes the fee that we might be able to get for him. Do we sell him to a rival like Liverpool? I mean, is that even the right thing to do when you can kind of see again what Liverpool are doing, that the attackers that they brought in, Gapco, Nunes, Jota, Diaz. Imagine Mason Mount in that team once they build that midfield and they've got their attackers, Virgil van Dijk, Konate at the back, Trent, Robertson, Allison. I mean, Mason Mount in that team would be actually dangerous. So I don't want to see Mason Mount go. If he doesn't want to be, then of course he has to be on that list of players that need to be out as well. There's a lot of talk about Kai Havertz. Bayern Munich have inquired about Kai Havertz as well. Another player that I just think, it's harsh on him. Very much like Mason Mount, we criticize him as well, Kai Havertz, but he's playing out of position as well, just like Mason Mount. He's playing out of position. He's not a natural number 9, which is why I said we need to address the striker issues as well. But Kai Havertz is one of those players that needs 10 chances to score a goal. And as a number 9, you don't need 10 chances. You just need 1 or 2. And you should be taking them as well, at least hitting the target. So I think for Kai Havertz, I think, for me personally, I think he has to be on that list as well. But you look at some of the players that we've already brought in over this window already. And if you had to assess this window, you could easily say a 7 out of 10 already. It's been a 7 out of 10. And we haven't even talked about, we haven't even offloaded any players. I look at some of the players that we brought in, the youngsters. We've got Armando Broja to come back as well. We've got Reece James, Ben Chilwell to come back from injury, and N'Golo Kante. We know Mateo Kovacic is injured now. You look at Dennis Zakaria, who was playing really well before his injury. So there's loads of players that we've got coming back from injury that we still got to fit into the team. I agree with this. I agree. Aspie, Jorginho, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, I think, is one of those players that has just had so many chances to break into the team. It's unfortunate for him, and not on this scale, but I think he reminds me very much of Lewis Baker, and I think he's still at Stoke now. And Lewis Baker was the loan man. He was on he's on loaned out for here, there, and everywhere, and it just never worked for him at Chelsea. And I think Ruben Loftus-Cheek, as I said, isn't to that level, but 100%, he's had an opportunity to get into the squad. He's played well, at times, especially under Thomas Tuchel, he played really well. And even under Graham Potter, when he's been asked to play, especially out of position at right wing back, I think he played well there. But he just never cemented himself as a regular 11 player. And he's been in and out of the team due to injury. So I think Ruben, would do well going away. I thought Ruben Loftus-Cheek at Palace was good. At Fulham, played well. So I think maybe that's his level. Maybe going to there, or maybe going into the Championship, for getting sold to a Championship club isn't that bad of a thing. Everton might go down, Southampton might go down. So there's clubs there that will want him as well. So Bakayoko, wow. I mean, the less said about him, the better. I'm pretty sure he was being called back from his loan at AC Milan. I'm sure he's Todd Bowley's keen to terminate his contract if he hasn't done that already. They talk about him coming back from his AC Milan loan to get his contract terminated, very much like Ross Barkley did. No hassle. Let's just cut your losses with Bakayoko. But this goes back to what I said about the 8-year contract thing. I'm happy that they're bringing in that rule in that you can't have a player on 8-year contracts, because Bakayoko has been rinsing the club for how long? So for me, he's got to go as well. He's one of many. Onoma again, so saying Kai needs to return back to his normative position of behind the top striker. With that, he cannot come back to his main self again. I agree, and I think the worry with that is you look at the players that we've brought in so far, and this is without Nkuku as well. Where does he fit in? Where does he get a game? Where does he get a game? Does he get in over João Felix? Does he get in over Mudryk? We've only seen a short spell of him. Does he get in ahead of Mudryk? I don't think he does. Even Hakim Ziyech is playing at a good level at the moment, albeit at a very low level, but still one of the higher potentials informed players at Chelsea at the moment. So does he get in there? I don't think he does. Does he get in ahead of Mason Mount? I don't think he does. And Cuckoo, I don't think he will. So I think he's had the thing with Kai Havertz and the thing with the likes of Timo Werner, the likes of Hakim Ziyech, even Mason Mount, Conor Gallagher. All these players have been in the senior squad for a long period of time. And I understand that they've had different managers and they've had different systems to play, and they haven't really had consistency. They haven't had a fully fit squad. We've had injuries in and out for the last 2 or 3 seasons, but even individual progression, and I don't mean playing world-class football, but I just mean individual progression in a player, because you can still be individually good in a crap team. There's a lot of examples of that. But even individual progression in players is non-existent in some of them, or very little. And I think that's the problem. The problem is we're not seeing consistency from a lot of these players because they're not being allowed to play consistent football because the squad's being rotated due to injuries all the time. But even little things, I mean, there's still things you can develop in your game as a player that makes you a good player. Even in a team that is not good. Mudryk came on, and I don't know if you guys got to see the game, but Mudryk came on and he looked a breath of fresh air. He looked like a player that you can tell. I mean, there's been videos of the guy in the gym before and after the game, and you can tell that he's all about the football. All about the football, wants to win. He's a winner. He looks brilliant on the ball. He's fast. He gets the ball in the box. He takes players on. He takes shots. Everything we need. That's a player that I think will fit into our squad going forward, because it's the way that we used to play with Eden Hazard, Gianfranco Zola, Didier Drogba, Cesc Fabregas, Juan Mata. All these players were on the ball and they wanted to win games and they wanted to get the ball in the box. And they all progressed. If you look at all of those players, even Damien Duff, Ian Robben, they all progressed. All of them progressed. You could see the progression in all of them. When we signed Damien Duff and when we signed Ian Robben, I'll even go back even further. Mo Salah went away, progressed, and came back. And look at him. It was at Liverpool when he came back those couple of seasons when they won the Premier League. Kevin De Bruyne. So we've been able to pick out talent, but sometimes the talent just doesn't work, and you end up with these players that are just stagnant and they don't develop. They don't get better. And what we do is we say we need to give them a chance, or we need to put them here, and we need to do this with them. And when we do that, then we find another excuse. We talk about injuries, and we talk about you can still develop as a player. I mean, Badiashile looked 2 games looks really good. Looks a lot better than Koulibaly already, and he shouldn't. Lewis Hall, a left back, looks better than Cucurella. So you can still develop as a player, even though the team's playing bad, with poor performances, in my opinion. So I hear what you're saying about putting him in his natural position, but I think even that wouldn't solve the problem that we have, and I don't think he's going to get the games. So I might have to be on the chopping block as well. And I think Todd Bowley isn't scared to do that. He's not scared to get rid of the Christian Pulisic. He's really not. So I think personally at the moment, I think for me, and I've said this on, again, other podcasts, for me at the moment, this is an opportunity for us to get rid of some of these players that we just know aren't good enough. They're just not good enough. We can talk about injuries, but even when the injuries come back, the injured players come back, they still won't be good enough. It's not the fact that the injuries are there. It's just that they're not good enough. So in my opinion, we have to get rid of them. And we have to make sure that we embed these new players in correctly as well. Give them the time. which I think we will. We have to, and we have to go again next season. In my opinion, that's what we have to do. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let me know what you think afterwards as well in the chat, and also let me know what you think about Graham Potter going forward. Do we sign Enzo Fernandez? Do we sign Moises Caicedo? What about Gusto that's coming in as well? What about Mason Mount going to Liverpool? Let me know what you think as well in the comments about all of that stuff. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button, please, for me before you leave this video as well. Episode 77, I think, is out now from the Shed Den. So hit that link in the description. You can hear from myself and the other Theo who joins me on the podcast and on the video channel as well. Yeah, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. There's only 2 people. There's 8 people currently in here at the moment. There's only 2 people that have given it a thumbs up. So please do me a favor and give it a thumbs up. And yeah, we're going to be back with more videos. I got another for you tomorrow as well. So make sure you tune in for that one. But thank you very much for everyone who engaged and got involved in the chat. I'll be back tomorrow with From the Shed. Thank you very much.